It's Grixis control against blue-white control. I had to fix all the names and stuff, but clearly we've had some issues. Alright, cool. 3, this one, this one, this one. I will be honest, at the start, I wasn't trying to figure out the audio issue. I just restarted the PC. I couldn't do it. But we have Jordan against Robert Crimmins, and Jordan is on Grixis control, and we're playing against blue-white control. And we picked this one for obvious reasons. Kind of on the fact that this is probably going to be our longest match, if I have to say so. But also, Grixis control not being a deck that's very popular in the meta, I thought it'd be interesting to start off with the deck. Jordan has Tasigurs. By Tasigurs, I mean a Tasigur, a singleton one. So that's cool. Before the event, he replaced his cryptic commands with fire and ice because he thought that was a much smarter thing to do. And I agree with that. Last thing on audio, if somebody can help me, is it like very loud? Is it peaking? Because it seems like it's loud on my end, at least from the bar. I can't hear it myself, but I can turn it down slightly if needed. This event link. That. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. I'm working on getting the timer pulled up as well. I just have to. Ah, nice. Wrong button, chat. Wrong button. This one. There we go. Now we're moving. And Taryn's gonna have a heck of a time editing this. But where are we at? Nothing has happened. Nice. We've just cast some spells, drew some cards, countered some spells, and then nothing has established on the board. A Chalice coming in on 1. Gonna be a lot more harmful to Jordan. If you're talking about the one that's in between a watery grave and the swamp, yes, that is the full text basic that exists and that Jordan likes to use. I can pull it up if need be here in a second, just so we can look at it, but it describes what a basic is. I would believe the Kier probably needs moved to a better zone, but I think the only reason he has it there is to let me know Kahira is his companion. I don't think it's actually in play. But I don't know. I'm gonna, because it is definitely a little bit confusing. It was one of the first questions I had. Team, I don't know what that card was. I don't know what that art is. There we got the actual names up. Brazen Borrower. Snapcaster. That makes sense. It's the Kamehameha. I what card is it though? Why did he do or not Kamehameha? I don't know why I said that. Somebody send help, dude. I don't know what that art is. I don't know what card it is. I feel like it's Bolt, but I have no Scryfall, please be my savior. I can't do this. It's a Hadouken. Oh my god, it is Bolt. Hold on. It's a Hadouken Bolt. It's exactly what it is. I have the card. Give me a second. So if we go into right there, that's it, chat. We found it. It is Lightning Bolt, but it's a Hadouken. I could not tell you what it was, but we figured it out 20 minutes later, so it's fine. All right. Last but not least, hope to God that the life totals are working. Yep. All right. Sick. Fourth thing, there's a Brazen Borrower in play. Brazen Borrower might actually be what helps Jordan win this matchup if Robert doesn't have any or a way to answer it. Subtlety might be a way to do that. But one of Control's issues, not necessarily issues in the past, is like against other Control decks, you don't want to tap out to answer a Brazen Borrower because like Prismatic Ending is 4 mana in order to do it, or 3 mana to do it, and that's a lot of mana, especially when you're playing against a deck that has counter magic. But Brazen Borrower also deals 3 damage every time it hits, so it's not like you're getting hit for a small amount. Becomes awkward to deal with, but like Jordan has an Archmage's Charm held up here. Robert can play a Jace my Sculptor and bounce it if he wins Counterspell War, but it can just be flashback in technically if Jordan tries not to counter it. Another subtlety in hand for Robert. Subtlety's active. Subtlety's active with an Archmage's Charm. So Green Bean's going to go to 1. He had to fetch. Can't believe they're playing Shocklands and Legacy. Yeah, I can't either, Grog. But I believe, I mean, I put Robert like prematurely at 1, but I assume this is not getting Archmage Charmed. No. All right, never mind. I'm a liar, chat. What's up, everybody? You got mainland anyway? True. Jordan just had a backup Brazen Borrower, which I guess also leads a little bit more to the confusion of why we didn't charm it, but we can charm now. It's a free removal spell for a creature, but also you get to put pressure in, making it where Robert can't fetch anymore without doing something to gain some amount of life. He has a Kahira, and I'm not sure what the other card in hand was. A Bolt off the top for Jordan. I would like to see us just go to combat first. Oh, and he has a haul. I'm so troll. Never mind. I forget about the haul. I was just worried about the hand. I guess that's another thing you can do. Just hit him for 7. That's also fine. All right, so they're getting started. So we're hopping back on the board. Jordan's up a game. Saw Brazen Borrower come down in game 1 and cause a lot of trouble for Robert. Kind of had like a little bit of the Murktide feel whenever you kind of resolve a threat like a Shredder, and then you just protect it and ride it until you win. It's kind of what we saw happen in game number 1. Brain Light Shifter's meme Urza deck? Yeah, could have been that one. We'll get there. Our Rest in Peace coming in play shuts off the Snapcaster Mage in Jordan's hand. Probably going to see this get Spell Pierced though. Jordan probably wasn't really thinking about. I wasn't thinking about it. All I'm saying is I'm pretty sure Harsey lost game 1. He's out there with a smile right now. He knows what he's doing. A Torok for Jordan. It's kind of one of the interesting cards that you get to play when you go to Grixis from blue-red or blue-white. Like, Jordan's still playing 2 Murktides in his list. They were seasoned Pyromancers, but he kind of wanted... We kind of talked about it. We just kind of wanted the threat that actually killed our opponent. Seasoned Pyromancer is nice to make individual blockers, but you're playing Fatal Pushes and stuff like that. That shouldn't really be an issue for you. Plus, you're playing Snapcaster Mage with those. So, like, realistically, lower to the ground threats shouldn't be a problem for this Grixis deck to deal with. If I see a pass from here on from Jordan and a kick Torok to come down next turn, if we can force any pressure and take any counter magic out of Robert's hand. So I go Shark Typhoon, so we have a 1/1. This is a spot if Jordan wanted to value Bolt, he could, but I don't believe there's a reason to do so. We're going to hit for 1. For control decks, they're doing some amount of damage to each other. It's always nice to see. Steam Vents, the Expedition comes down, I believe. A Dukin the Shark. He didn't do the hand thing this time. So maybe Jordan's not feeling quite as in a good spot as he did previously. If you missed round 1, Jordan Hadoukened him. I'll pull it up once again just for anybody that was just getting here. If you don't know what that art is, it's this lightning bolt, which I didn't know existed until round 1 today. So that's pretty cool. So we are playing a 1-mana Tasigur. This is why we're here. It's getting Counterspell, but we're going to see a Counterspell come back, I would imagine. Jordan, only reason he's playing this deck, he's not about to let it go down that easily. It's just the version he has. Tasigur. To counterspell your counterspell, please don't have another counterspell Jordan's hoping. But a Dovin's Veto comes down to clean up the board. Jordan doesn't have a Spell Pierce to back this up. He had to use it earlier on a Rest in Peace. So it sucks. One of the cool synergies though, with Tasigur being a Delve card in and of itself, is if you do play like a Murktide at some point and you have a Tasigur, getting those cards back with Tasigur will also buff your Murktide, but delving to play the Tasigur can also buff your Murktide to make it really strong. Because you get an extra 5 cards with it. So you could make your Murktide big with that. A Baby Teferi comes down for Robert. Pretty bad news for Jordan. It got plussed, but Torok coming down to take the last 2 cards, being a Hall the Storm Giants and a Narset. So it's going to get big. Teferi can't bounce it. I can never remember what creatures do what. We get the exact one. Does he not have 3 black? I didn't look when he actually cast the spell, but I mean, I see 3 black. He has a Grixis, Triumph, Watery Grave, and a Blood Crypt. Yeah, he played tap Blood Crypt after. I can. All right, yeah. Let me go tell him. Ooh. I don't know if you're playing the target at all. All right. Yep. So, yeah, Jordan, take us 2. Give you budget. He goes, oh yeah, you're right. Everybody forgets that Torok is not just like it's not like 1 in a black and then its kicker is 1 in a black. Everybody, it's just 2 extra black that you need. Have you seen that bolt art? A Dukin?
Oh, Jordan was showing it to me.
The first 5 minutes of the stream was trying to figure out what that card was.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, Bolt maybe? Question mark. And then we found it. But you win?
No. No. We both mulled the 5-game one. And he had his hand that he kept on 5 was like a gemstone cavern hand.
Yeah.
That also had Force Blue card and a Cascade spell. And it was pretty sick, actually.
It's a brutal day for the Archon player, man.
No, I felt fine. Like, my deck did what it wanted to. He just had spells.
In the Kahira itself, it's not in play. He left there just okay. If that answers your question, he bought it just now, but it was not in play. He left it there just so it would be on stream, so we knew it was his companion or not. Relevance of that, the reason why is because stream being's Robert Crimmins, by the way. I keep forgetting that I use his actual name on this. But it determines whether or not the blue-white control player is playing Snapcaster Mages or not. So, him having Kahir kind of lets us know that. So, Stream was at 14, going down to 11. So, Scry 2. Those are not horrible cards. Narset might be somewhat bad in the spot. And if you were to put Narset back on top, you should probably go ahead and put the Solitude on bottom because it's not a grabbable target by Narset. So now you kind of guarantee that one of your hits is not like you can't hit one of the cards for sure. There's a possible chance this is a miss. Oh, but there's a Shark Typhoon and a Jace the Mind Sculptor, so it doesn't matter. But 2 Solitudes going on the bottom. Very least. Jace the Mind Sculptor finding itself in a very good spot. Bolting immediately was a bit aggressive, but also if Robert just grabs a counterspell, feels a lot worse for you. Jordan has to make the decision whether to hit this Jace or go for his life total, and he's choosing the life total. Which makes a lot of sense when you have access to Bolt, Snapcaster Mage. So game is pretty well probably gonna be, unless Robert literally finds nothing, pretty favored in this spot. This is for anybody that doesn't know, that is the filter land. Some people forget that those exist. We get comments on YouTube and stuff sometimes. So yeah, I ran that track. I couldn't agree with you. You're generally pretty safe to not bolt it. Whenever you have a Brazen Borrower, we're going to be able to kill it the next turn anyway. But Jordan illustrated that he was more focused on life total, which might even been more of a reason not to bolt it if your plan with Brazen Borrower is to actually attack face. Holding the bolt to also just pressure the life total might even been a better play for the game plan that Jordan went for. One of the things of kind of knowing what you want to do ahead of time instead of in the moment. Plan ahead so that your plan does not conflict with what you're doing earlier in the game. Consider Ben's a Scalding Tarn signed by me. That's me. Cry. Solitude going back with top. Other card going to the bottom. Raw. First thing he's doing is activating this Jace, making its loyalty as high as possible. I had to pull this card up in a while, but active Planeswalker in play if you need a refresher on it. Pulled up on screen. Uptaking on yourself is a play. You might not be worried about it too much because he does have the scry lands. Like he's getting to look at his cards anyway, for the most part. So controlling what your opponent's drawing and generally locking them out of the game the best you can is fine enough. Alright. One more turn. Jace does indeed have a mode that you can activate for 0. Some would like to say it's the best mode. Some people just want to lock people out. It just happened to come down in a really weird spot when Robert had a way to answer the threat in play and Jordan had no cards in hand or anything like a Memory Deluge in the graveyard or something like that. Not sure Jordan plays Memory Deluge, but a card like that can kind of force you to not down tick on Jace. On a mall. Getting back in pretty quickly. You just saw him rub the spot where Kihira was, so it was accidentally shuffled in. That is confirmed. So yeah, you won't have to worry about it whether it's in play or not. Whenever he draws it, it'll be in its hand. He doesn't have to pay the Bayou tax. Jordan's gonna fetch up his Xander's Lounge. I think that's the Grixis one. Do we just call them Triumphs? Like, am I allowed to just call it the Grixis Triumph? Or am I supposed to call it the Lounge? Alright, I'll just call it the Triumph. Alright. Xander's Triumph. We just as a community will errata the text of the card ourselves. Lordy. Pretty standard start for what both these decks are going to be doing. It's the, downside of both players playing control is First 3 turns are generally going to be see if somebody blinks first. If they do, try to counter it and then punish them. But Fire and Ice might be handy for Jordan here to tap down the Triumph that Robert has in play, which is Spara's Headquarters. The Bant Triumph, smiley face. Tapping it down, draw a card, leaves Robert at 2 mana coming into Jordan's next turn, leaving only a Counterspell up, shutting off Counterspell plus Spell Pierce if Robert has any of those. I don't believe I've seen him play a Spell Pierce yet, but I have seen Jordan play one. Jordan elected not to play the Hall, which is another good card against control. It's generally pretty hard for them to remove. The ward on the card's pretty tough. Unless the control player is playing March. March being one of the better cards to remove the Lance. Being pay white than the ward cost. And an instant speed. Prismatic Ending could do the same if you could technically cast it in instant speed with an uptick to Teferi. Both our life totals going down to 17. Got an interesting question. Have people been off modern in your area? It feels like more than half our community is shifted to Pioneer. So, a lot of people in the area have been off modern, but our players haven't necessarily shifted to Pioneer. A lot of the players in our area that were playing Pioneer, all their decks have kind of been banned at one point or another. Hardesty was playing Keth's combo, so it got banned before it even got to him in the mail. So that was cool for him. We had a few Winota players because at the time the deck was cheap before it got really, really strong. And after the announcement of the Pro Tour made Winotas go up pretty high, but overall that deck was generally pretty cheap. And then we had some people playing Underworld Breach, we had some people playing Inverter, and they just like the decks that they were playing that they had fun with, they haven't quite been able to capture the same enjoyment that they had when they were playing the decks that they were playing. So they haven't necessarily come back to the format. Yeah, but when Cat combo was killed at the very beginning, you didn't really get to play it though. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But like Aggressive Iteration getting banned, which is probably correct, but like Treasure Cruise is still kind of on people's nerves in that format. Liliana, I could see being somewhat of an issue. If it had like 3 weeks, it did not stay long. Like, if the format was announced for a month and you already got banned, I don't count you as being in the format. I personally don't think like the Inverter deck needed ban. I think also we've kind of gone to the fact that like Underworld Breach, although it's like really strong and they do have like that early game like win con, it's kind of easy to hate out. That deck's Underworld Breach was pretty strong. That might just be wrong. I have no idea. But either way, Inverter I can see not necessarily needing it. Underworld Breach, sure. Some people just don't like losing the combo, man. So like they get upset, they tap out, and then they lose. Like, it happens. These guys fire stuff. Everyone is on Commander now. We do have a lot of people that want to kind of play Commander. The big issue in Commander, if you've ever played Commander in your area, is figuring out the power level in which you want to play at and getting everybody kind of on the same track. And that means yeah, it's weird. Like, Commander's cool, in my opinion, if you're on the same page and like your group's fun to play with, but you get one bad egg in the group, Commander is awful and not fun. Play right now. Yeah. I don't know. But back to the game at this spot. We talked about it a little bit earlier when I mentioned that Jordan hadn't played the Hall, which he could have, I believe. I'm not entirely sure what his fourth land drop was, and that allowed him to cast Culligan command. But if it was just an island, we probably could have played the Hall earlier. The other reason he might not have wanted to is the fact he's trying to play around a Field of Ruin. He didn't want to put it in harm's way when he's nowhere close to activating it. Nightwing, love to see in-person FNMs again. Cheers, guys. 2 years has been hard. Glad I get back to my locals. Yeah, that was the other thing, is Pioneer really got hit hard from the initial wave of COVID and the shutdowns. Like, you announced a new format, it was out, received a lot of bans, kind of did its thing, and then COVID happened, and in-store play, like, our standard scene completely died. There's just, like, no standard at all. So that's one of the big issues that we have. But it's always exciting getting back. Like, we've had a lot of people that come back to the shop and they're like, I haven't played Magic in a while. I would love to play more, and we highly encourage it. Because sometimes worst case scenario is just playing a game with your boys. We generally throw like we'll throw NFL up, depending which game it was. Like, during our 1K, we had the Bears playing against, oh god, I can't remember who the Bears played, but the amount of people that were like watching in between rounds was like exciting. It was like cool play. The 49ers, yeah. So they were like playing, so people were watching it. One of the few things that we're working towards and getting on a ballot for is like getting a liquor's license, so that like if people want to just come and play games and watch, like play some Magic games and watch football or basketball, they can also like crack a cold with the boys, you know what I'm saying? So it's very exciting what we're like trying to do, and we want a lot of stores to do the same, because the more stores that are doing better for their players, the better off the game's going to be, whether like kind of no matter what Wizards does for the most part, or like any printings that come out. Generally, if you have a nice fun environment, it's fun to just go and play no matter what your games turn out to be, if the environment's fun enough, which is what we're hoping to eventually do. Might make you travel 2 hours for an afternoon. Thank goodness I've. Damien tried to play Aetherworks Marvel, and it sometimes did Aetherworks Marvel things, sometimes died too quick to mono red. Alma, becoming a mythic gamer. Thanks for the year in total of Prime subscription, comma. I'll still make you get 8th in TFT, so it's fine. That's your reward. But cool plays happening. Jordan trying to resolve this Tasigur. Archmage's Charm or Counterspell of his own is coming down. He does not have Archmage's Charm backup. There's Teferi also in play. So Jordan reeling back and going, huh. That's a sad day. I should have bounced it. He goes, yep. He looked at the Brazen Borrower in hand and meant to bounce baby Teferi. Forgot to do it. Saw the Tasigur. Got a little too excited and just jammed it. For those who might not know, the whole reason Jordan's playing it, I pulled it up earlier, but I see we have a couple more people in here than we had earlier. But the reason for Jordan playing Grixis, and the main reason why, is for this card, Tasigur. As Delve, you can mill 2 cards and return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. One of the cool things that he's kind of done in some of his playtest games on the side at the shop today is he's played a Murktide followed up by a Tasigur at some point. The Delvin Tasigur making it very relevant and picking the choice of the card that we want to use. And the Tasigur buying it back also takes the card out of the graveyard, buffing our Murktide even more. So Tasigur has a weird synergy with that. Although the hardest part about it is it makes you a little more vulnerable to graveyard hate than you probably need to be. But Jordan's also not on 4 Murktides, he's only on like 2. So instead of a 3rd Murktide, he's playing a Tasigur because it's his favorite card in Magic, I believe. Besides his new lightning bolts. Is blue-white control playing Leyline Binding? We've watched all 3 of their games so far up to this point. I have not seen Leyline Binding at all. Me personally. Whether he has some in the side, he might. I know he plays a Jeskai Triumph and a Bant Triumph, which is Spar's headquarters. He does play those, so he has up to 4 colors that he's able to use to make it only 2 mana, but whether or not he's actually playing the card, I'm not aware of. Jordan, looking at his counter magic in hand, still in a tough spot because of his Baby Teferi in play, everybody's favorite card. But a Hall getting crewed up. This Hall again being an issue for control, just getting being able to just remove it is hard. One of the mirror breakers, in my opinion. It's kind of like what your old man land used to be, whenever it would be Celestial Colonnade, but this one having Ward has just been so relevant. Maybe, hello. And if you're unsure what it does, this the art that he's using. It has pay 6 until end of turn. Hall Giant becomes a 7/7 blue giant creature token with Ward 3, and it's still a land. So things like Brazen Borrower can't even target it. Brazen Borrower has to. Wow, boys, we're getting dazed. But all slightly an issue, of course, for control because of the ward cost being such an issue, but certain things being unable to even target lands is also an issue. But days ending, not ending Robert's turn because that happened on Jordan's end step. Very important thing on days. A little bit of a thing. Some people find it out when they cast it. Yeah, he left it in there. He pointed it out as he mauled the 6, and he just didn't go get it. So I'm not going to stop him. What Dane's doing, for those of you that might not know, if it's your turn, it ends the turn. Baby Teferi uptaking, allowing him to cast a sorcery on Jordan's end step. Does not actually end Jordan's turn, so Robert was able to flash in a Solitude as well from his new grip. And again, this is all in Jordan's instep, so unless he has something like an Odawara to bounce the Teferi in response, he cannot do anything. As the channel from the lands can obviously bypass the cast instance and sorcery type thing, instant speed. But yep, Baby Teferi being quite the menace when it comes to uptaking and your opponent getting dazed on their end step. Days Undoing, not the card Days. Those are vastly different. I have no clue what that card is that Jordan just cast. We're just going to bypass it and pretend we didn't see it. Smiley face. Sudden Eating. Yeah, he said he was playing it earlier, and I didn't believe him. a split second thing, so they can't interact. Doesn't need it. For those who don't know, I didn't really know until today, because nobody plays it. But it's kind of good if you're playing against like a Murktide deck. It's a really good removal for them. They can't really handle that too well. So it's kind of cool. But split second means you cannot do anything in response. You can't even flip mana, I believe. So abilities that aren't mana that maybe you can. I don't know. Either way, it's cool. Yeah, you can activate mana abilities. For whatever reason, I thought you just couldn't. But Robert's all the way down to 1. Looks like giving Jordan all his cards was not great. So, Ivan, I will give you a little bit of Jordan Fahrenheit lore. Jordan, deck of choice, depends on the attire he's wearing. He has a specified dread shirt, a specified burn shirt, and if he's wearing the hoodie, it's a mixed bag. It could be anything. Sometimes he's playing Asmo, sometimes he's playing Control. He wanted to play Tasigur, so now we're here. And after the event, he might sell the whole deck and build something else. I don't know. So it's an interesting plot line for Jordan. And it's just where we're at. Yeah. This game is over. So basically, the thing that's going to happen is Teferi gets upticked. You have a Narset play. Jordan's going to draw for turn. And then he's going to get a daze, being unable to cast anything at instant speed with the Teferi in play. Jordan doesn't have an Odawara, so it might not be as over as we thought. Could Odawara bounce the Narset? I think that's the idea that Jordan's thinking about, because his daze is still rather annoying for you. You're also going to get a full fresh grip. He could have bounced and bolted, which is I think what Jordan was thinking about, but Jordan's going to his turn. So if he just rips 2 bolts or a bolt of any kind, he might be able to. I just got stared at to the glass. My bad. A bolt and anything, Jordan can actually just win here. Although he had bolt, Culligan's command does it as well. All those spell pierces and stuff for absolutely nothing. Robert's more likely to have a counterspell now than ever. Jordan's just looking at all this counter magic to basically guarantee that he was be able to resolve something. Yeah, bouncing Def probably made sense for the most part. The only downside is if you try to bolt, it gets counterspelled. You try to bolt, it gets counterspelled. Now you go to 0 cards in hand and they get a fresh new 7. But if he had to count, oh, Jordan had to count. I thought you meant Robert had to counterspell. That I would say that if Jordan knew he had a counterspell in hand, I don't know if that made sense at all. But with Jordan having a counterspell in hand, yeah, he definitely should have bounced, bolted, and then held a counterspell back up instead of going to a new 7. But I think Jordan's want on his new 7 was just to hopefully be like 2 bolts and go from there. But it was not, so we almost saw very crazy play. Now I have a Dovin's veto, prismatic ending for the solid for the Snapcast. I said solitude, I meant prismatic ending. Game is more locked up than it was before. For an untaps. Robert's still at 1. Consider. We're going to fire it off. Jordan was looking for a basic island to tap. Maybe he's wheeling that back. Curious to see what Jordan does. Jordan does have Solitude for a Murktide if Jordan decides he wants to play it. Now get cleaned up, but kind of buys Jordan some time in a weird way. But Solitude getting life might not. I can't figure out what Jordan's trying to do. He's giving me a migraine. This is a Hall activation. It's just a full cost Murktide. That is, I'm in the round. It's going to get Solitude in. Jordan's going to go only up by 3 because he had no cards to exile. So he's at 12. Man, oh man, oh man. Jordan, a sad boy. I had high probability of winning the game when he had the Odawara bounce. Punted that opportunity away. I personally missed the counterspell in his hand. My screen is rather small that I'm trying to look off of, but not an excuse. I mean, I guess it kind of is technically, but. So, big swing in from here based on life totals. Putting Jordan down to 7. Robert's now out of bolt range. Doesn't have to necessarily fight over it. If he wants to hold up counter magic for something maybe he feels more relevant. This could have been all activation hit him as well as swing in, but we're missing lethal, chat. We were missing lethal, but Robert might actually just somewhat be. I mean, it doesn't matter. Jordan wouldn't have enough to target, like pay the ward cost, so Robert might be taking a little bit more of a cautious route after he tried to World Star Daze him and got Odawara bounced. But there's no reason with Jordan this far tapped out. And Jordan now technically having a window to get in there with his own haul. Because everything's tapped out, it would require Robert to have a Solitude or removal spell plus his own activation, and then you lose your haul. Jordan thinking, just really probably confused that he didn't activate the haul. Okay, Jordan could have done it, swung in response, and just seen if Robert stopped him, but he did not. Jordan's going to pick him up,